We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. Then in the
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is a very real prospect of a new world order.
It is not the elite cockroaches that determine that. It is you.
Well, everybody, I'm glad that you joined us into the Overdrive 4th hour. I want to say hi to all the PrisonPlanet.tv members. You make so much what we do here possible. Everybody else listening to the audio at Infowars.com. Hey, guys, you think I should take these calls? I mean, I know I'm going to take these calls first, but should I play the JFK first or should I play the TV show first? I forgot to ask which one we've got queued up first. We're going to do the TV show first. All right, about 30 minutes of that or so. And then we'll end out the hour with the exclusive JFK info from the new film. But right now, as promised, because I didn't get to all your calls, I wasn't just going to footage at the start of the show, but I want to get to everybody. Up first is Greg in New Jersey. Greg, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. By the way, I'm a subscriber, too, and I like it a lot.
Thank you for the support.
No problem. Just want to let you know, for those people that don't think they can't make a difference as an army of one, here in New Jersey, 1,000 people thought like me and stood toe-to-toe with John Corzine, the governor of New Jersey, wants to sell our turnpike, including my state senator and their my two assemblymen. And it was quite a show in Marlborough, New Jersey, to the point where I called in the heavy guns. He didn't get a chance to speak, but even Jerome Corsi came to the meeting, where 1,000 people stood toe-to-toe against Corzine.
Oh, they're not handing your road away to foreigners like they are in Texas, are they?
Oh, no, it's going to be a public benefit corporation.
Oh, where private people get the money and yeah.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. So Dr. Corsi wrote a scathing review of Corzine's plan.
Did they try lies like saying there's no money from gas tax when gas receipts have exploded exponentially?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, they're going to have to raise the gasoline tax.
They go, there's no money coming in. But you look at every state and federal gas tax, the amount's going straight up. 15 million barrels 10 years ago, 26 million barrels now used today. Gee, you think they're getting more money?
Correct. It's all just a pack of lies, and the people in New Jersey
raping.
Are getting
it's just
so
total
fed up.
criminals.
I think they're finally starting to wake up, thanks to people like you.
Total criminals, and they're all going to prison.
I sure hope so. I'll bring Corzine a cake.
Well, tell me what Corsi wrote, because I was interrupting you.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Corsi just basically wrote that the turnpike scheme that Corzine is planning is basically the same as what's planned for the NAFTA superhighway. And it's basically just the privatization of the road. The people get nothing, and they're going to force us onto this road, whether we like it or not.
Great story in Natural News today, but it quotes a Reuters, and so I Googled the Reuters. I didn't just believe Natural News, even though they're great folks, great info. I Googled, they also had a link to it. And Reuters admits that Centra's got the deal. The state of Texas pays, let me explain this, the state of Texas pays for the putting in the toll readers and adding like half a lane, because then technically they say it's not an existing road they're tolling, so they can violate federal and state law because they're not supposed to toll something that's existing. So the state puts in the tolls, puts in a few bridges, and then they get all the money. Literally, all Centra did was lobby politicians and then give their wives, sons, daughters, mistresses publicly jobs at Centra.
Oh, this is probably what's going to happen in New Jersey. Remember now, and since we stood up against him, and the public outcry was so incredible, he said, well, they're going to scrap the plan, but to punish us now, he's going to start shutting down, such things as state parks.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Other things
I appreciate your call.
Nothing to do with the budget.
I appreciate your call. Yeah, that's another trick they play. Remember before they handed over 54 national parks and 40-something national heritage sites? It's always growing. That's the last time I checked years ago. That's actually the number it was in 97 when I made America Destroyed by Design. But just the things they do are so mind-boggling, are so mind-blowing. To get everybody freaked out, they told the Forest Service and the Rangers, you're all probably going to get fired. They may close the parks. Lots of propaganda. There's no money. We're broke. And then they had all these conferences and meetings, and they said, we're going to tax everybody to come in. We're going to make them park and pay $20 to park and pay to go in on buses. You got to start bossing the citizenry around. And then they even hired more. And then the people were like, well, if I keep my job, my career, sure, I'll be a thug. I'll do whatever you say. And so, yeah, they will not fill potholes. They will not give cops new radios. They will not give the fire department new engines. The basic stuff will suffer. And they'll say, oh, look, in the budget, there was no money for this. But budget is just what they talk about, the money they have, not the real investments, the comprehensive annual financial reports. So, yeah, these are all the tricks. They have all these they even have handbooks that have come out on the tricks they play on you. Let's go ahead and talk to John in Michigan. John, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Alex.
Hello.
A couple different things. I'm out here with my girlfriend. She's a med school student at MSU out here, and she comes home every single day with a new sexual topic that they seem to learn in school. I come to find out, I realize that the med school is like sexually orientated. They come home, they learn more about sexual stuff when diabetes is on an all-time high rise, cancer on an all-time rise.
Yeah, when I went to college, I could be in math, I could be in history, I could be in anthropology, and the professor would walk up and say, we've got to get rid of 80% of the population. And I mean, this is in 1993, 94, 95. I went to school 2.5 years. And I'm not joking. I'd be in speech class. I'd be in I was really bad at math, so I was in algebra. I'd be in sociology. I'd be in Texas history. You have to take that in college here. Didn't matter what it was. I would literally walk in. They'd walk in and say, the people bomb. There's too many people. We've got to reduce their numbers. Only world government will save us. Everyone will interbreed. It's going to be wonderful. This is what the person of the future will look like. Trying to stay white is bad. And guns are evil. And the world government will save us. And there always were groups of high schoolers being brought through, being part of UN meetings. And then I'd go watch CNN and they'd say, the UN taking over doesn't exist. There's no New World Order. But then I'd go to school and that's all they taught. And so, yes, it's just total, complete, absolute, and there was some sex stuff. Yeah, they do that to make, in a lot of the psychology classes now, you've got to dress as a woman, or you've got to write about, they watch XXX porn in class, and they study it, and really, again, it's anything but real information.
One of the things that she did learn that this is kind of important to me that I realized is don't ask, don't tell policies. They got small groups like think tanks. They come in, they'll bring all the students in, and the professor will be like, well, do you guys agree with this? And one of it was, if you have surgery, say on your private area for a female, and she goes into the hospital in the ER, the topic of discussion isn't whether or not these students are able to operate on her, but what they do is they bring all the students in without asking the patient, and they all do an exam on her. So they all sexually assault this patient. And the talking point isn't whether that's right or wrong. The talking point was whether they get done with all the exams, whether the
Yeah. Let me explain this, and I appreciate your call. This is an incredible subject. We got to write articles about it. In a hyper tyranny, you always get bizarre expressions of decadence. Emperors. We're going to go ahead and let him go. I've got a caller there. you always get rights that don't exist and obsessing on weird things so they can make the rights debate about things that don't matter and make rights look stupid and ridiculous. It's like the ACLU won't defend basic rights, but then they'll say there's all these other rights that don't exist. You understand? And in very decadent societies, you always get emperors marrying their horse and weird laws that you must bow to a horse when it walks by or bow to a cow. A psycho society always gets real weird. But then there'll be gladiators killing innocent women and children, every weekday, when work lets out down at the Coliseum. And so it's all scientifically done. And they also want to break down past morals so that they can replace them with their new social morals, which aren't morals. The government can say when there's a moral, when there isn't a moral. It can be interchangeable. It can change. Like torturing a child is okay, but if a parent disciplines their child, they're going to be taken. So you can't lightly spank your child, but the government can put them on drugs that eats their brain. You see. Or sexual partners can cut each other, slice each other up, cut their own arms and legs off, shoot each other with guns. You didn't know that's a big popular sexual thing to do, to shoot yourself in the arm or, have these scars all over you, or have your lover chop your fingers off, and it's all the rage, or try to give people AIDS. That's all beautiful and good, and don't you dare talk about it. It's wonderful. But if you say, hey, I happen to think heterosexual, is more healthy and better for society. I don't hate you guys. It's just that please don't push it on me. Arrest him. He's a hater. This is all scientifically crafted by behavioral psychologists to confuse and just render us a bunch of crazy weirdos obsessing on how people look at us, but then not, that guy's, citizens can't own guns. I'm scared. That's crazy. But arm the police, build FEMA camps, have them with machine guns and microwave guns. And I feel safe when men in black uniforms and ski masks are stomping around. But don't let a citizen have a gun. No, help me. I mean, that's the whole attitude that we're talking about here. I keep forgetting. I'll put it on the document cam, and then I keep forgetting that I'm not on computer here for people out there watching. Let's go ahead and take another call. Let's talk to Steve in Colorado. Steve, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi there, Alex. I had a comment and 3 questions. I wanted to reinforce what you said a few days ago on your program about it doesn't matter who is, what particular people are in office, that it's all controlled at the top. In this country, all the politicians that are really in the highest positions, like the chairmanships of committees and everything, are all CFR. And when a Republican gets in there, then the Republican CFR types go into these chairmanships. And then when a Democrat gets in, then the Democrats go into the chairmanships, and or I guess who controls the Senate at that point. In the House. But then with the president, even the same is true with his cabinet. When a Republican president gets in, then a Republican set of CFR advisors come in, and when a Democrat gets in, then a Democrat set of CFR advisors, and they're all run by David Rockefeller, and they play by his rules. So I just want to mention that, and then I had 3 questions. Absolutely. Ask them real fast. Okay. You had just mentioned a guy by the name of Grasso that had to do with FARC. Yeah, Richard Grasso, the head of the New York Stock Exchange, publicly went in 2000, Reuters, others had photos of it and articles, and publicly asked the FARC to invest their drug money in the New York Stock Exchange or they would be invaded. He said no, and U.S. forces invaded 1 year later. Okay. And they finally killed the head of the FARC, 3 months ago. Wow. Okay. And they have international law, and U.S. law allows the investment of narcotics money from other nations. Well, isn't that special? Oh, yeah, it's all public. There's cops driving along going, that's not true. Well, okay, just don't check out what I said, and you can live in your own delusional world, but I'm telling the truth. Okay, and then the next question is, you had mentioned also a few shows ago, and you touched on a bit today, that there was a CIA station chief that admitted on some program that the OSS had helped Mao. Was that back in '49 with the revolution? Yes, 49-50. And there's I got to let you go. This has been I've only taken 2 or 3 more calls, and I've got to get to these videos.
I don't remember the name of the section chief right now. It was on the History Channel. I'd already read several books and had a bunch of guests on. It's common knowledge. David Rockefeller's written about it, but my point is now it's on the History Channel. Let's go ahead and take another call. Let's talk to Eric in Philly. Or no, Al in Denver. I'm sorry. Was who I was supposed to go to first. Al in Denver, go ahead.
Hey, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm a new listener. I've been listening and got turned on to you about 4 months ago, and man, you really connected all the dots that I've been noticing throughout the years. Anyway, I got 2 quick questions. The most important one's first, so we can drop the second one if it takes too long. But question I have is about how the elite, want to kill us, and they have all these various ways with fluoride in the water, inoculations, contaminated food, chemtrails, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question I have is, how do they protect themselves from these things and their children?
Well, the answer is it is very few, only a few thousand at the top, and I appreciate your call, that know the entire program and the compartmentalization. But from their writings and people like Eric Pianka, they say, we know we have to die, and he volunteers that he and his family are ready to die first. So their hatred of humanity, their love of death, and I mean, he's on the UT website dressed up like a druid talking about Lucifer. I mean, this is one of the head professors. He wins international awards. He gets 95% standing ovations. I mean, almost everybody stands up when he says we'll all be dead soon, and they just stand up. It's not like one bad scientist and 13 monkeys. I mean, it's most of them. That's why I'm on national talk shows, and callers and hosts go, hey, shouldn't we get rid of most people? And I'm like, okay, you first. I mean, this is sick. And I see Bill Clinton on TV on C-SPAN drinking Diet Coke. And I see, these people are crazy. I mean, they're completely out of their minds. It's like an evil system they're part of. But when you read about David Rockefeller, he's all into health food. Jay Rockefeller, his grandson, the senator's all about health food and purified water, all these health foods. A lot of times you'll notice they'll live out in the country in certain areas and only go into town at certain points. A lot of them live out of the country. But whatever they're spraying is one of the things they have the antidotes to. These are soft kill weapons. And they don't, but you'll find out about all the elites. They're all obsessed with organic. They're all obsessed with purified water. It's admitted that Prince Philip, Ted Turner, Prince Charles will not drink regular tap water. It's taken with them. You'll see it in press reports about how their food and water is all taken with them. Very, very serious. Eric and Philly, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, man. What's up?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, I want so many things I want to talk about. Yo, man, do you check your MySpace often?
Yeah, I probably look at it once a day for about 5-10 minutes and read what folks are saying.
Do you understand how important your MySpace is?
Well, I know that a lot of people visit it.
I posted a video today about Ron Paul, who was on a show in Philadelphia. But I want to know if you and Kevin can make a film on aspartame.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's just that I can only do so much. Again, I'm going to move really fast now because I'm almost out of time. Thank you, Eric. I want to make films about everything. You got to get the footage, shoot the footage, buy the music, put it together, edit it, make a cover, manufacture it, sell it. And then the audience is only so big. If I had 1,000 titles, I'd probably sell one of each or something. You can only get out certain things in mass, too. That's why it's important to buy Endgame, buy Terror Storm. I mean, those films need to be seen. Let's go ahead and talk to Sean in Idaho. Go ahead, Sean.
Alex, you really have helped me open my eyes tremendously, and I just want to thank you very, very, very much. Unfortunately, I'm only able to listen to the podcast because our local stations don't carry here, and I don't have a shortwave yet. So what I wanted to talk about real quick is just the Nazi gun laws that have pervaded here into the U.S. That's what the U.S. gun laws are based on, and just a small example. The BATF is actually going after the oldest gun shop in Idaho, which is right here in our area.
Yeah, let me just read the article to folks on air. Feds spend $3 million to shut down Idaho gun store. American Free Press, Twin Falls, Idaho. And it says Ryan Horsley, who I talked to this morning, traded, and the guy said, I'm a fan of the show. I listen to the show, but they told me if I shut up, they'll go easy on me. That's not what we found. If he shuts up, they'll have their way with him. They'll win. and they're just liars. But Ryan Horsley
That's right.
Seems confident that he will triumph over a government shakedown that has cost his family business $200,000 in legal fees as he fights to keep Red's Trading Post, a fourth-generation firearms store, in operation. Go ahead.
No, that's right. And Ryan last year he brought in the movie called The Gang, which documents the BATF. And
yeah, that was made by Jews, the preservation of firearms ownership.
That's right.
And so since he showed the movie, he has to be punished. Free speech isn't allowed in America. He must be punished.
That's right. The second thing, in terms of guns, I mean, I'm sure you've talked about it before, but, Randy Weaver was set up by the FBI. And then, real quick, the last thing I wanted to end on, talking about Oklahoma City and they're blaming it on McVeigh and all that, and the fertilizer in the truck and the diesel. Well, we're farmers out here, and I tell you, the restrictions on fertilizer after that have been just tremendous. I mean, they're restricting it, and I think it's just one more excuse.
Yeah, exactly. It's another tax. You can go buy stuff at the store that's even more explosive. It's all about control, getting feds in your life. Any excuse to have these parasites come suck off of you. They're not just lazy, dumb, cowardly bullies. They also want to suck off of you.
Yep, absolutely, man. And I just want to thank you. You are just the man. And
no, you're the man, and I appreciate your call. Okay, there's just too many calls coming in. Chris in France. We got to move faster. Go ahead, Chris.
Alex, what's up?
Hey, what are you doing over in France?
I'm working at a surf factory making surfboards.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. But yeah, it's every day working, I listen to the podcast, and I was wondering if you're going to get the extra hours up on that.
We're working on it. We have limited personnel. Let me ask the guy out there. Are we going to get that fourth hour? We've been posting on InfoWars and Prison Planet. I don't know where Nemo and Watson are getting it, but every day they've been posting the audio of the extra hours up on the web.
Yeah, I listen to it at night when I get home, but
you just may have to fidget around for it. You just may have to look for it. You may have to look around for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm stoked. Love the show. Best thing on the internet, radio, everything. Stoked on it. Thanks, Alex.
Hey, thank you, my friend. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play part of my TV show from a few weeks ago. This isn't even on the web yet, from local Austin, first time seen on the web. And then I am going to play, 18 or 20 minutes? I've been told different numbers of just the hundreds of hours of footage, but some of the most interesting stuff from the JFK film we're making. Again, you're going to get these type of sneak peeks here as PrisonPlanet.tv members. But at the same time, everybody can listen at Infowars.com to the mainstream right there to hear the audio of it, and that's also extremely interesting. So here is my TV show from about a week and a half ago. Actually, I thought it was last week's show. This is one from 2 weeks ago that hasn't aired yet either. But we'll be playing these about once a week for you on the show before they're even posted for download or, I mean, you can get these so many different ways at PrisonPlanet.tv, but we're going to give you exclusive stuff here first, live. And then again, the JFK thing's coming up after this. So God bless you, and I will see you back here live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. Kevin Booth's American Drug War is out. It's at Infowars.com, discounted, out of the gates. Get it today. Show it to everybody. Expose the terrorist. All right, here it is. Hello, my friends. It is March 24th, 2008. We've got about 22 minutes left. We were just playing one of the little extras from my documentary film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, the mini-film titled Battle for the Republic, how the globalists are using a hostile, nationalistic country to our south to destroy the sovereignty of the United States by design. Okay, we have a lot of news to cover in a short time to get there this evening. In my stack, I have John McCain saying that Iran runs al-Qaeda, which he had to admit was a lie. Also, we have a very important police state stack here for you this week. Another stack on what's happening with the economy. Also, the jackals circling Iran, wanting to start what could lead to World War III. And as we predicted last week, The Supreme Court is set to rule that all guns can be banned in the United States and that you have no right to own guns. And as I predicted last week, later in the week they did it, they are billing it as a victory for gun owners, saying, yes, you have a right to own guns if we say so. So we'll go over that a little bit today, this evening as well. Let me, in fact, just get into that now. Here is a story from prisonplanet.com. Gun owners fooled by mammoth Supreme Court hoax. But we have quotes there and links. I interviewed Larry Pratt, the head of Gun Owners of America, who separately concurred with my analysis and had his own detailed analysis and their own lawyer's analysis. They haven't ruled yet, but the oral arguments were there. The justices made comments, and we have the supposed Second Amendment group's briefing in the case to the Supreme Court. We have the White House's Justice Department briefing, and then we have some other groups. And I spent the time in the last week to read the briefings to the court. There's about 20 of them. I only read 3 of them, but the key ones. I have the federal government's brief here, and they say that there is no Second Amendment, and they basically say that they can ban all of your guns if they want to. And then I have the supposed pro-gun group, and they say, well, you have a limited individual right, and they agreed with the court when justices would ask them that guns can be completely banned. Now, the average person doesn't even know how the Supreme Court operates, or that there are briefs, or that you can read the oral arguments of the Supreme Court, or that you can read the statements of the justices. And so they simply heard and saw the headlines about a big victory for the Second Amendment. Justices appear skeptical of D.C.'s handgun ban. That's the Washington Post. New York Law Journal, individual right to bear arms wins favor in court argument. And then in a few months, they're supposedly going to make their announcement. Here's an AP article. Justices agree on right to own guns. That's Associated Press. So the average person reading this would think that there'd been some great victory for the Second Amendment. Now, what I have here is just one page of quotes by founding fathers. There are over 1,000 that I have found. Noah Webster, John Adams, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, about everyone has a right to own guns. They are mainly to defend against a tyrannical government and secondarily against thugs breaking into your house. And they said that any time the government tries to restrict your ownership of guns, that's a tyranny, and violently overthrow it. Now, that's the founding fathers. I'm not saying we should go out and be violent. The founding fathers tried to not be violent as well. We just need to educate people. I have the Federalist Papers, number 46. The advantage of being armed, which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, where the governments are afraid to trust their people with arms. I mean, it just goes on. There's thousands of quotes. There's no debating that the Second Amendment, the Revolutionary War started when the British came in 1775 in Lexington and Concord to confiscate the handguns and rifles, the smaller muskets, the larger muskets, and the long rifles. And let me just read what infringed means. To transgress or exceed the limits, to violate. Any contact is to infringe. It also says to encroach on someone or something, engage in trespassing. Infringe, go against, as the rules of laws. He ran afoul of the law. This behavior conflicts with our rules. It means it's against the law. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The people's right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What is there? It says violate the basic laws of human civilization. Break the law. Infringe means to break the law. It means if you touch the Second Amendment, Well, just like the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Then it goes into freedom of the press, assembly, the rest of it. It's Anglo-Saxon common law, codified in the strongest wording ever in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and Bill of Rights. Or, in order, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights. There is no debate, but we have a public that thinks Iran is al-Qaeda. We have a public that is the dumbest on earth now in global test scores. We are the stupidest, most mindless people on earth now. We were the smartest, now we're the dumbest. We're the spoiled brats of people that carved out a continent and gave us everything. The smartest, the toughest, all the histories, all the data, it all shows that. Now the most pathetic, the most slovenly, the stupidest. That's who we are. And we've got criminal government and the UN and others saying that civilian ownership of firearms threatens the legitimate power monopoly of the state. Now, they're saying it's legitimate, but I agree with the statement. Our ownership of guns threatens their power monopoly. Power monopoly is a dictatorship. So, the Supreme Court is set to rule, well, D.C. says you have no right to own guns, but we're saying you do have a limited right if we say so, if prescribed by law. They've never had a court ruling at the Supreme Court level saying that you can't own guns, and the Supreme Court, and that the Second Amendment doesn't say what it says. So they're billing the codification, the Supreme Court saying they can ban guns, as a gun victory. That is no victory. So I'm done talking about that. I've done 3-hour radio shows on this. We'll do more shows in the future as this develops. But the NRA isn't going to tell you. No one is going to ring the alarm bells. The NRA is a Judas goat. Gun Owners of America has documented how they're actually a gun control organization. Gun Owners of America is the second largest Second Amendment group in the country. They've never been adversarial towards the NRA. Their board last year voted to go ahead and tell the truth. They said they'd held back for decades. They're older than what we know of as the modern political NRA. The NRA before was federally founded by the federal government after the Civil War for marksmanship for the military because the North couldn't shoot as well as the South from the lessons of that conflict. They authored every gun control bill that has ever passed the federal level. They authored the 68 Gun Control Act with Senator Dodd. The late Senator Dodd, not the current Senator Dodd. They authored everything. See, you can't ban guns with 150 million gun owners. You've got to have somebody who's posing as your friend that does that. Okay, let me get into McCain. McCain shrugs off Obama attack over Iraq gaffe. This isn't about Barack Obama, so don't immediately decide that it's okay that McCain lies to you because Barack Obama pointed it out. They're all puppets. They all work for the same people. I'm just using this to show you a Reuters headline. Okay? What was the gaffe? Bush on national television and when he's in the Middle East has said that Iran is behind al-Qaeda. Mohammed Karzai, the puppet dictator appointed by Bush in Afghanistan, has said, Mr. President, you are mistaken. And Bush has said, no, you are wrong. Because Mohammed Karzai knows how ridiculous it looks. There are two major branches of Islam. There is Sunni and Shiite. Shiite is the original group. But the now larger dominant group is the Sunni. The Sunnis come out of predominantly the central Middle East, Saudi Arabia. That's where the Wahhabist or Al-Qaeda comes from. And it itself is a minority of the Sunni derivation of Islam. They're constantly killing each other. They hate each other. It's just continual warfare. Iran is run by Shiites. Now, the White House 4 years ago, it came out, this is admitted, is funding al-Qaeda, which they founded. They used them against the Serbs, of course, and they used them against the Russians. And they have had them for 4 years, bombing dams, shooting up school buses, killing Iranian police all over the country. The CIA is there advising them inside the nation. And they promised the Sunni that they're going to get to run Iran, just like our government has put in religious Shiites in Iraq. They always divide and conquer. It wasn't an Islamic state before with Saddam. It is now. Saddam was an older U.S. policy of secularism. So our government runs al-Qaeda publicly and has them attacking Iran. Then our government and our corrupt media comes on and says Iran is al-Qaeda. Now, it's now been pointed out that this was not a gaffe by McCain, that this is a talking point. It's said on talk radio every day that Iran is where bin Laden lives and that Iran is al-Qaeda. The U.S. public can't tell you how many continents there are. You know the drill. Miss Teen USA can't even talk. They can just text message and act cool and apply makeup. Men don't know even what their state capital is. They just strut around acting tough, bugging their eyes out at the gym. But they're total slaves. I mean, you've been socially engineered by scientific experts. They have literally dumbed you down. All of us have grown up with at least 20-point IQ reductions from the sodium fluoride, and that's in scientific studies, areas that have fluoridation versus non-fluoridation. They've injected us all with mercury from birth, which attacks the cerebral cortex. I mean, we are retarded. The best of us, people that would be geniuses, are now just average. If you were going to be average, you're a moron. If you were going to be a moron, you're retarded. This is their gift to you. This is their loving eugenics gift in their own documents. They've lovingly given you. And you can't understand now, and you're giggling and smirking because you're mentally retarded. Bad man poison you. Bad man hurt you. Bad man decided to put bad things in food and water. Eugenics. They say the middle class is their enemy, and they cold-bloodedly, militarily lobotomized us chemically. God, those words are too big. Bad man hurt you. Bad man hurt you. I'm not being condescending. Many of you don't understand. Bad man hurt you. And that's how they talk to you. Hillary and Bush, and they all talk real slow. We're going to give you health care. Just like they gave the black folks welfare and took them from 90% legitimacy to 90% illegitimacy and put about half their males in prison. They're not going to help you. They want to hurt you. And the low-grade morons at the government low level, they mean well. They don't know. They're compartmentalized. So McCain comes out and says Iran is training all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a little bit of the TV show. The rest of it, the other 50 minutes or 45 minutes or so, will be up on prisonplanet.tv today. We're turning out so much material. There's like 5 videos Watson hasn't put up yet because he's so busy writing articles, doing customer service. We're trying to hire more people. We're trying to get a bigger office. Major growth around here in the fight against the New World Order. It's just going to get better and better. We're turning up the heat on everything. We're going to have a set TV show, me in a suit and tie with an evening report for you by the time we're done with it here. But this is the start here. In a moment, we are going to play you a special JFK presentation up until the end of the hour, and then it will merge with the retransmission from the first 3 hours of the main radio show. Again, I know that there are a lot of you that are just listening to the audio at prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. I would challenge you to pay the 15 cents a day because we got some super awesome servers. I'm paying $15,000 a month for servers. Okay, I got 2 CDNs, 7 other servers. I mean, that's what it costs to really send out all the free stuff and the paid stuff and the rest of it. Most of the money that comes in, that's what we do. And it's all about getting the word out. So please pay the 15 cents at prisonplanet.tv. Go get a trial membership at prisonplanet.tv. Okay, here is the JFK sneak peek from the upcoming film. Very, very interesting information.
President Kennedy has been assassinated. It's official now. The president is dead.
Something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route.
From Houston Street onto Elm Street.
25 years of information, but to boil it all down, Kennedy was upsetting some of the most powerful and violent forces in this country. The CIA that he threatened to splinter into 1,000 pieces, the mafia, which he and his brother were attacking, and we now know, of course, that all of these groups were working with each other, particularly in the secret war against Castro. So it wouldn't have been a big thing to simply take their assassination teams and send them to Dallas. Now, why would they want to get rid of Kennedy? Well, he was going against a lot of the programs that they were all for. For example, it's my opinion he would have never allowed ground combat units in Vietnam. And he even told close friends that after the election he was going to withdraw U.S. troops from Vietnam. That would have curtailed a lot of the profit for the military-industrial complex. He also threatened to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. In other words, disband the CIA. He also was working through his Treasury Secretary to curtail the power of the Federal Reserve System. In fact, in June of 1963, he issued $6 billion in United States notes. Money issued through the U.S. Treasury, not through the Federal Reserve System, which is headed by a bunch of international bankers. I think the two fundamental points about the Kennedy assassination are, number one, who had the ability to strip him of normal security. In fact, when Fourth Army Intelligence called up the Secret Service, called up higher-ups and said, we're prepared to send a bunch of plainclothes agents to provide additional security, they were told to stand down. So who had the power to strip the normal security away from Kennedy? The other point, of course, has to do with the fundamentals of the assassination. If one bullet did not pass through Kennedy's body and strike Connally, causing 7 wounds to these 2 men, then obviously one person did not do the shooting. This is your 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano carbine, made during World War II for and by the Italians. They nicknamed it the humane weapon because it was notoriously inaccurate and you wouldn't kill anybody with it. The bolt is loose. It's basically a piece of junk. The lot that these rifles came into at the time of the assassination was in court in a civil suit because they said that the whole batch was defective. Right in the Warren Commission report, it states that when the Army Ballistic Test Center wanted to test this rifle for accuracy, they had to put 3 metal shims under the telescopic sight just to make it accurate enough to test. All right, I'm aiming at this building over here.
2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006.
Okay. I just about made it in the 6 seconds, but I guarantee you that last one, I squeezed the trigger off. I did not even have this huge building over there clearly in my sights. So I probably would have missed this building. And we're talking about aiming at a human figure 250 yards away, moving downhill laterally away from you with a tree intervening in the line of sight. If Oswald couldn't do the shooting, then we're into a whole new ballgame.
These are handwritten notes that my father wrote out for me while I was at his bedside, his hospital bedside in his home in Miami, Florida. He wrote these out over a period of a couple of days. Wow. Him discussing everything through his lengthy career in OSS and the 27 years he worked in the CIA, and then beyond that when he worked for Mullen and then the White House, through Watergate, his time in prison, and after that. All right, well, this first document is a very basic chain of command. This is the first note that my father wrote to me. And at the top here, there's a box that says LBJ. Below, there's an arrow going to the next box that says Cord Meyer. Below, there's a line coming from Cord Meyer's box to the right that says Bill Harvey. To the left of that, and underneath Cord Meyer, it says David Morales. And below David Morales, it says French gunman Grassy Knoll.
It's interesting that the researchers have known for years about the possible involvement of E. Howard Hunt, Watergate burglar, CIA operative. But it is astounding that at the end of his life, he actually then began to confess to his involvement. And it's really amazing to me that the corporate mass media has not really picked up that story and disseminated it in any meaningful way.
The information that my father gave me, he talked about the original meetings of a conspiracy that they were hashing out at 2 different safe houses in Miami was for a plot for Miami.
Right.
And the plot, by the time, things changed, it turned into Dallas. I don't know if it was the same cast of characters.
Well, let me tell you something, St. John. Apparently there were 2 previous plots. One in Chicago.
Oh, really?
That got scotched because one of the first black Secret Service agents, somehow got word of that, and they knew that somebody was onto it, so that they canceled that one. The next one was scheduled for Miami. But again, apparently word leaked out, somebody knew something was going to happen, and so they canceled the motorcade through Miami. So now we're getting towards the end of '63. It was the last presidential trip. Yeah. Then you're going into the election year, 1964, which would have meant increased media coverage, increased security.
Yeah.
So Dallas was kind of like their last opportunity.
Last chance, huh?
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't have to be the one plot or the other plot or the mafia plot or the Cuban plot or the CIA plot. I think there perhaps very well were several plots that may have not known about even each other.
And that's what you'd want to do. You'd want to have those layers.
Yeah.
So if one didn't work, the other one might. Plus, nobody knows who else is doing it. Well, I understand your dad said that there was a Frenchman, French Corsican involved. Yes. And it is interesting because we do have documents showing that the United States government had secreted a French agent out of Dallas that afternoon.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that.
And his name might have been Michael Mertz.
Really?
Yeah, I've got all those documents in my files. Again, this is hard leads that were never followed up. Everybody on the western end of Dealey Plaza said the shots had come from behind that wooden picket fence on the grassy knoll.
That's right.
And of course, the House Select Committee determined that at least one shot did come from the knoll. In fact, it's amazing, but the last official word of the U.S. government was that there was probably a conspiracy and there were at least 4 shots fired at Kennedy, but somehow that just has not really been reported to anybody.
I know, and they knew that Kennedy was going to be elected. I mean, he was so popular. Hands down,
64% approval rating at the end of '63. He was a shoo-in for '64. Oh, and by the way, the same week that he was assassinated in Dallas, one of the Dallas papers ran a story that said Johnson would probably be dropped from the ticket in 1964. So this not only was the last chance for the people that wanted to get to Kennedy, but it was the last chance for Lyndon Johnson.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So according to your father, he knew that the power that resulted in the assassination went right up to Lyndon Johnson. Right?
That's right. He wrote out a document that he called the chain of command. He sketched it out for me, and at the very top there was LBJ.
Right.
And below that there was Carl Meyer, David Phillips, and below that there was Bill Harvey. Below that David Morales, and then below that the French gunman.
Right.
Have you seen that document?
No.
Yeah, I have that all here.
Great. We'll take a look at that.
Yeah, you can have copies of it too.
But here's what you have to understand. Johnson, as powerful as he was very much under the control of people even more powerful. For example, in his administration, he had his 16 wise men, who included Dean Rusk and McNamara and this bunch, and Averill Harriman.
Yeah.
And it was written about at the time. They were the brains behind Lyndon Johnson. Every single one of them was a ranking member of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations is a sister organization of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, both of which were formed out of the old Cecil Rhodes Roundtable groups. These are the royalty, the banking elite of Europe, of the world, and then they came over here. They were the ones who tried to instigate the League of Nations in World War I, but we We didn't want to give up our sovereignty. So then they formed the Council on Foreign Relations, specifically with the goal of educating the American people to why we needed to be part of a United Nations. These are the globalists. These are the people that George Bush Sr. referred to as the New World Order.
Okay. Tell me about Sam Rayburn.
Well, Sam Rayburn was the Speaker of the House, and he was the mentor of Lyndon Johnson.
Oh, okay.
And the famous story is that when Kennedy got the nomination at the Democratic National Committee convention, that Johnson was so mad he stomped off the stage, and Sam Rayburn went after him and said, "Come on, Lyndon, get back, play the game, go along, you'll get your chance." Okay? So Lyndon came back in, and of course Kennedy then, to try to mend fences in the Democratic Party, offered the vice presidency to Johnson, never thinking for a minute that he'd take this powerless job when he was the most powerful senator on the Hill. And to the surprise of both Kennedy and Johnson's people, Johnson accepted the vice president's nomination. And later, when he was asked, "Why'd you do that?" he said, "Well, it put me one step closer to the presidency."
Isn't that prophetic?
Yeah, and it also showed his ambition. H.L. Hunt had put out and ran an ad in the Dallas newspapers charging Kennedy with treason. And so you can see that among the wealthy elite of this country, they not only hated him, they viewed him as a traitor and a criminal. And of course, there were violent factions ready to take action once it was understood that nothing would be done to them. Years ago, one of the earliest researchers, Penn Jones, told me that he had learned from servants and people attending the meeting that there had been a meeting at a oil man's house the night before the assassination, and present there was Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, J. Edgar Hoover, and he styled it as a last-minute commanders meeting. Later years, I met Madeline Brown, who was a mistress, a girlfriend to Lyndon Johnson, and she told me she had been at that meeting and that Johnson had arrived a little late, and he and Hoover and Nixon and the oil men had all gone into another room. And when they came out of that room, that Johnson whispered to her and said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, those goddamn Kennedys will never bother me again after tomorrow." And that came from Madeline Brown, and I can assure you that she was Lyndon Johnson's girlfriend.
Well, it's a tragedy, really, for me. On a deeper personal level. What this location represents to me is not only, obviously on a national level and an international level, but on a deeply personal level, it's caused an incredible amount of heartache and sadness in my family.
Do you feel like your father, towards the end, felt any regrets?
No. I think he died without having, well, as a matter of fact, he told me the only regrets that he had, and he was very sick when he told me this, very close to death, and I was, he paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts, and at that moment I was thinking, did he have regrets about his wife being murdered, about his children being, his family being destroyed, and no, it wasn't those things. It was that the Bay of Pigs had not been successful. So that's the kind of guy my dad was.
And keep in mind, those people that were involved with the Bay of Pigs, and when it failed, who did they blame? Kennedy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They blamed Kennedy. Yeah. And yet, when you really go look at the dig down into the Bay of Pigs, you find out that Kennedy wasn't even aware that was going to happen until after he got elected.
Right. That was
planned by Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Who was the White House political action officer of Eisenhower.
That's right.
Right. It was a fait accompli.
Yes.
It was already going to happen, and yet when it failed, Kennedy took the responsibility for it.
Yeah, not Nixon. With Nixon, his history with my dad goes back to the Bay of Pigs days. Mm-hmm. So when he was made aware that E. Howard Hunt was working in a team for him, I don't know when he was made aware of that, but I know that Charles Colson brought him in, to become what was eventually called the Plumbers Unit.
So when it was time to form the Plumbers and start start what came to be known as Watergate, he was glad to get E. Howard Hunt on his team. Right?
Yeah, well, he knew E. Howard Hunt could take care of things. That's why he also, on the other side of that same coin, he was very worried about my dad, because that Hunt knows too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a Watergate Nixon transcript tape.
Yeah. And of course, all through those Watergate tapes in the White House, he kept referring to that whole Bay of Pigs thing. You know, and of course, by then, now it's 1974. Everybody knew about the Bay of Pigs. H.R. Haldeman said he finally came to understand that when Nixon was concerned about that whole Bay of Pigs thing, that was a code word for the Kennedy assassination.
That's right.
I'll even go this far. I think the people who planned and executed the Kennedy assassination looked upon themselves as patriots. They felt like they were saving this country from international communism. What they didn't understand was that the same international banking oligarchy that was controlling the United States were the same folks that created communism. People have always said to me, well, hey, if there's a conspiracy, wouldn't someone have talked? Hey, they've all talked. You got James Files, who said, I did it. You got the documents coming out about the French Corsicans that was secreted out of Dallas the day of the assassination. You've got the Warren Commission. I've got a document there where they said, well, we looked into Oswald's background, but this is going to take some serious omission and redaction. In other words, editing. In other words, we're not going to tell everybody the truth about what his background was, and they've all talked. Everybody's talked.
It's very cathartic, to get all this out. It's very empowering to know that that my father put me in the position to give this information to the public, something that he could not do in his life. And when he said to me, when he gave me this information and said that he wanted me to release this after he died, I carried this kind of monster on my back, for the last couple of years, and it feels very empowering and very good to get this out.
Well, my friends, again, thank you for joining us today for this live transmission. This is the first show this week where I've been doing this special fourth hour where it's only been an hour. I went for 5.5 hours a couple days ago and for 4.5 hours yesterday, it was 5 hours yesterday, and for 4.5 hours the first day. But we're out of time. The retransmission of the radio show is about to begin. Well, I guess we'll be meeting the retransmission when Sella Costello came on, who's being set up for exposing that the government ships in drugs. That right now, we'll join that in progress on the web at Infowars.com. And I'll be back tomorrow for another live special Overdrive Hour. If you weren't able to see the video, it's extremely powerful. Great job to Aaron Dykes putting that together. We have hundreds of hours of footage. That's just giving you an idea of what's going to be in the film, the JFK film I'm making. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now meet the program in transmission.
Network. And now, live